welcome to the deep dive. You handed us quite a stack of sources, articles, research, even some personal notes, and they all point towards one, well, explosive topic: artificial intelligence.
That's right. And looking through them, these sources, they don't just hint that change is coming. They really build a case that the world is changing at a speed our data actually calls unprecedented.
Right.
This isn't just the usual tech evolution. It feels like a genuine transformation driven by AI innovation and, crucially, adoption on a scale we just haven't seen before.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. Get into this material. We want to pull out the really critical data points, maybe some surprising details, and synthesize the key insights. Give you a real shortcut to grasp the scale, the drivers, and, implications of this AI era. What does it actually mean for you right now?
Precisely, because the picture these sources paint, it's one where this shift isn't just fast, it's happening, like genuinely faster than ever, according to the numbers we have. The growth in users, how people are using AI, the sheer amount of capital being poured in. It's all described as, well, unprecedented.
Okay, let's start with that rapid adoption,
Yeah.
because it is kind of mind-boggling when you look at it. The sources flag ChatGPT as maybe history's biggest overnight success, even though, OpenAI had been around for 9 years before that particular product just took off.
And the numbers really show that dramatic takeoff. ChatGPT hit, 800 million weekly users in just 17 months.
Wow.
Yeah, that's 8 times growth in under a year and a half. It's staggering.
And if you compare that to, say, the internet itself, the sources remind us it took 23 years for the internet to hit 90% penetration in North America.
Exactly, 23 years. Now, we are seeing signs that a leading US-based large language model is on a trajectory for similar rapid adoption. But it's worth noting its mobile app wasn't even available everywhere, like in China or Russia as of May 2025. So there's incredible speed, but also some, geographic wrinkles to consider.
What's fascinating, though, is how quickly this moved beyond just being a consumer thing. The adoption is exploding everywhere. Like, look at developers.
Oh, absolutely. The NVIDIA ecosystem, for example, saw a 6-fold jump, 6 million developers in just 7 years.
6 times.
And on platforms like GitHub, repositories focused on AI are up like 175% in just the last 16 months or so.
Yeah.
And the number of developers actually using AI tools in their work, that jumped from 44% in 2023 to 63% in 2024. They're not just playing around, it's becoming integral.
And you see this inside the big tech companies, too. They're not just experimenting. They're really going AI first. Take Duolingo. Their CEO, Louis van Oud, is quoted directly saying the company is becoming AI first.
Right. He emphasizes it's changing work now. He gave this amazing example.
The chess curriculum one.
Yeah. Built by 2 non-programmers using AI, and neither of them even knew how to play chess to begin with. That really speaks volumes. He also stressed, urgency over perfection and dealing with constraints like how you use AI in hiring, performance reviews, things like that.
They've got leaders pushing the actual hardware limits. Elon Musk at XAI talking about building, quote, the world's biggest supercomputer, Colossus.
And 122 days, and then doubling it, getting to 200,000 GPUs in another 92 days. That kind of construction speed for pure compute power, it's just unheard of.
NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang, he frames this as totally fundamental. He sees AI as the next step in evolution, something becoming basic infrastructure like electricity.
Exactly, which requires building what he calls AI factories, these huge data centers. His line is basically every region, every industry, every country, every company all needs AI. It's a bold vision.
But this isn't just a Silicon Valley bubble story, right?
Yeah.
The sources make it clear AI is a huge priority for traditional businesses, too. Look at the S&P 500.
Yeah, about half of them are mentioning AI on their earnings calls now. And their focus isn't just cost cutting anymore. Increasingly, it's about driving growth, driving revenue.
How so?
Well, we're seeing things like boosting general employee productivity, saving labor costs for specialized workers, but also building customer-facing apps to increase sales or satisfaction and speeding up how fast they develop new products.
And there's some really solid examples in the sources. JP Morgan's big AI modernization push, they're estimating, a 35% value uplift by end of 2024, maybe even 65% by 2025?
That's the projection, at Yum. Brands using their Byte platform to optimize how restaurants run, or the global CMO survey showing generative AI is really picking up steam for marketing tasks specifically.
Okay, so Beyond corporations, what about government, education, and research?
Same story, really. AI adoption is a rising priority there, too. Governments worldwide are adopting these sovereign AI policies, basically making sure they have national control or access to AI infrastructure and models. NVIDIA actually lists a bunch of government partners.
Interesting. And in research?
Healthcare stands out. The number of FDA-approved AI medical devices, it just shot up. It was single digits before 2010, then boom, 223 by 2023. And 160 of those approvals were just in 2023 alone.
Wow, that's acceleration.
It really is. And the U.S. federal AI budget reflects this $14.7 billion allocated for FY21 to FY25. The NIH alone requested about a third of that for fiscal 25. Plus, you see things like AI-driven drug discovery, potentially slashing R&D timelines by 30, maybe even 80%.
So the supply side, the adoption, it's clearly exploding. But what about actual engagement? Are people sticking with it? The data here seems pretty compelling, too.
Oh, definitely. Daily time spent on the ChatGPT app in the U.S., for example, it climbed 202% over just 21 months, from mid-2023 to early 2025. People aren't just downloading it and forgetting it, they're weaving it into their digital routines.
Which kind of leads into this next big thing the sources highlight, AI agents. This sounds like more than just chatbots.
It is. The sources describe these as a new kind of AI capable of actually, doing work, performing complex tasks, interacting with your digital world. Think less like an assistant you ask questions, more like a service provider that can take actions for you.
And people are catching on?
Seems so. Google searches for AI agents spiked over 1,000% in about 16 months. And you see the big players launching products in this space. OpenAI, Operator, Salesforce Agentforce, Anthropic's Claude 3.5 doing computer tasks, Amazon Nova Act.
So these things can actually control your screen, automate workflows.
That's the idea. The interface is shifting from just conversation to being an action layer.
Okay, none of this happens in a vacuum, though. This level of user growth, this capability jump, it needs a foundation.
Yeah.
And the sources are really clear. The user growth, the usage growth, and the capital spending behind AI are all unprecedented.
Absolutely unambiguous on that point.
Let's talk about that capital expenditure, the CapEx surge. The big 6 U.S. tech companies, their spending accelerated, 63% year over year, hitting $212 billion in 2024.
Yeah, and the key thing isn't just the total amount, it's the shift in where that money's going. Their spending really inflected with AI's rise, tilting heavily towards computation, towards intelligence infrastructure.
And a huge part of that is the hyperscalers, right? The big cloud providers.
Massive driver. Their global cloud revenue has been growing on average 37% a year for the last decade. And their CapEx. It's increasingly focused on specialized chips, GPUs, TPUs, other AI accelerators, plus the cooling needed for them, and building these entirely new kinds of data centers.
That quote from Microsoft's Brad Smith really stuck with me.
The electricity one? Like electricity, AI and cloud data centers represent the next stage of industrialization. It captures the scale of the ambition, I think.
And right in the middle of all this spending is NVIDIA.
They are a central player, no question. The sources highlight them accounting for 25% and rising of global data center capex. Their revenue numbers reflect that demand, up 78% year over year to $39 billion in their recent quarter. That's 28 times growth in 10 years.
Driven by the hunger for their GPUs.
Exactly. Global installed NVIDIA GPU compute power. Over 100x growth in about 6 years. That's like 130% annual growth.
And it's not just more chips, it's better chips too, right? The performance per chip is also improving rapidly.
That's the crucial multiplier. You have more capex and better performance per GPU happening at the same time. It leads to this exponential increase in the total available computing capacity.
And building that capacity means building actual buildings, data centers at incredible speed.
Yeah.
U.S. data center construction value accelerated 49% annual growth over the last couple of years.
Yeah, the sources note they're being built at speeds that feel more like consumer tech cycles than traditional real estate development. Remember Musk's Colossus again?
750,000 square feet in 122 days.
Described as superhuman construction speed. It's remarkable.
So the model is land, power, chips, cooling. But the ongoing cost, that's mostly energy.
Overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
Specifically electricity.
Which brings us to a potential huge bottleneck, no AI without tons of energy.
Correct. Data centers already used about 1.5% of global electricity in 2024. And that share is growing fast, about 12% per year since 2017. That's 4 times faster than total electricity consumption growth.
And it's concentrated.
Heavily. The U.S. accounts for about 45% of that data center electricity use.
Mhm.
AI's power demands are getting bigger and bigger, and it's putting real strain on the existing power grid.
This feels like a classic tech story, though, doesn't it? The efficiency versus demand thing.
It does. The sources call it tech's perpetual aha moment. Costs fall, performance goes up, and usage doesn't just grow, it often explodes, which creates new bottlenecks. It's like Jevons paradox in action makes something more efficient, and people might end up using more of it overall.
Even though the hardware is getting way more efficient, like that NVIDIA chip comparison.
Right. A 2024 chip using 105,000 times less energy per token than one from 2014, that's a massive efficiency gain. But so far, it just hasn't been enough to offset the sheer explosion in total usage and the resulting energy strain.
Okay, so this huge infrastructure build, the rapid adoption, it's creating a really intense economic and competitive environment. Let's talk costs. Training these top AI models.
Astronomical. Estimated costs grew something like 2,400 times over 8 years.
2400x.
Yeah. Now costing well over $100 million. And the sources suggest models currently in training might be approaching $1 billion just to train.
But the cost to run them, the inference cost, that's coming down.
Significantly, yes. Per token, it's getting cheaper to get an answer from a trained model.
And that leads to this performance convergence idea.
Exactly. The top AI models are getting very similar in performance quite quickly, at least on standard benchmarks like the LMSYS chatbot arena. Which means, well, it means you can often get pretty similar results using models that cost less to run.
And that's where open source really comes into play.
It's a huge factor. Models like Meta's Llama, they're closing that performance gap with the big proprietary models much faster than many expected, and at a tiny fraction of the cost.
Mark Zuckerberg thinks open source will be dominant for developers soon.
He predicted it would be the largest type of model developers use in 2025. And the download numbers for Llama support that trend. 1.16 million by April 2025, up 33x in 8 months. And people have built like 100,000 other models based on Llama already.
Because for developers, maybe cost and customizability matter more than having the absolute very latest thing.
Often, yes. Control, cost efficiency, those are huge drivers. So you see this clear trend, developers moving towards these really capable, low-cost open models.
Which must put a lot of pressure on companies trying to sell access to their proprietary models.
Huge pressure. And it's not just from open source. The sources emphasize rising competition, crucially, from China. It's often framed as an AI space race.
Right. China's seen as highly capable, strategically important.
Absolutely. They've accelerated hard in areas like robotics, IT, military applications, pushing this idea of indigenous innovation. There are concerns voiced, like a quote from Sam Altman, about the risks if authoritarian regimes lead AI development, force data sharing, cyber weapons.
And their models are getting good.
Yeah, things like Alibaba's Quinn, Baidu's Ernie. They're showing competitive performance, often apparently at lower costs. Plus, China's industrial robot base is already bigger than the rest of the world combined, excluding the U.S.
There's also that cultural difference mentioned. China being much more positive about AI's benefits than the U.S.
81% seeing more benefits than drawbacks in China versus 39% in the USA, according to that survey. That difference in public perception could definitely shape things.
Okay, so amidst all this competition, who's actually making money? We hear about the new players. OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI, Perplexity, getting these huge valuations.
They are based on very rapid, although sometimes estimated, revenue growth. Anthropic's a good example, cited as growing annualized revenue 20 times, up to $2 billion in just 18 months.
But then there are the incumbents, the tech giants.
You absolutely cannot ignore them. They have billions of existing users across Meta, Apple, Google, TikTok, Amazon, X, Canva, Spotify, Microsoft. It's a massive built-in advantage.
And they're just embedding AI into everything.
Everywhere. Meta AI hitting almost 1 billion monthly actives. Google's Gemini ecosystem growing users. Microsoft Copilot. 15 billion chats by late 2024. And their overall AI business running at over $13 billion annually, up 175% year over year. They're putting Copilots right into the software people already pay for and use daily.
And that pattern holds for enterprise software too, right? The source companies.
Yeah, same playbook. Microsoft with M365 Copilot, Adobe Firefly, Atlassian Intelligence, Zoom AI Companion, Canva Magic Studio, Salesforce, Agentforce. They're layering AI into their existing platforms.
And users are adopting these features.
The metrics suggest yes. Atlassian Intelligence users scaling fast, Zoom AI Companion monthly users growing significantly, Canva Magic Studio hitting billions of creations. It shows the value shifting from just providing the tool to using AI within the tool to help users get
And
outcomes.
then there's this other category. AI enables specialized software for specific industries. That seems to be exploding too.
Really explosive growth. The examples are nuts. AnySphere cursor for software engineers. $1 million to $300 million ARR in 25 months. Lovable for product development. 13x growth to $50 million ARR in just 5 months.
Wow.
A bridge in healthcare, used by Kaiser Docs, $50 million to $117 million ARR in 5 months. Harvey for law firms, $10 million to $70 million ARR in 15 months. Decagon for customer service, $1 million to $10 million ARR in a year. AlphaSense in finance, $150 to maybe $420 million ARR in 2 years. It shows AI is creating these new, highly valuable tools solving very specific problems.
Exactly. The economics are still dominated by that heavy capital intensity building and running the AI factories. History teaches us, whether it's railways or early internet companies or even Uber and Tesla, huge capex early on is risky. The winners aren't always the first or the ones with the absolute best tech. Sometimes it's about who scales, adapts, maybe burns through cash but survives.
So the question is, where will today's AI players land on that spectrum? It's the multi-billion, maybe trillion-dollar question the sources leave hanging.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. Beyond the current business models, the sources talk about AI expanding into new areas, especially the physical world, physical agents.
Yeah, moving beyond just software. Autonomous vehicles are a key example. Waymo getting real market share, like 27% of ride shares in parts of SF in under 2 years.
And Tesla's self-driving miles.
A 100x increase in under 3 years, driven by that big shift to end-to-end AI, replacing hundreds of thousands of lines of traditional code with neural nets.
And it's not just cars. There's trucking, construction, defense.
Right. Companies like Applied Intuition providing AI tools and autonomy software to OEMs across those sectors, and Endural building AI-enabled autonomous systems for the U.S. military. Their argument is that AI can make warfare potentially more precise, less indiscriminate.
What else in the physical world? Resource exploration.
Cobalt Metals using their machine prospector AI for mineral discovery. The sources suggest they're finding deposits much more efficiently, discovery rate per dollar spent, than the industry average.
And agriculture.
Carbon robotics with their laser weeder. Using AI and lasers to zap weeds, they've already weeded hundreds of thousands of acres, avoided tons of herbicide. It tackles a big labor issue for farmers wanting 247 operations.
Fascinating. Then there's this idea about global internet access. How AI plays into that. 2.6 billion people still offline.
But low-cost satellite internet like Starlink is changing that rapidly. Starlink hit 5 million subscribers, growing over 200% annually. It's bringing access to places that never had it.
And the speculation is their first internet experience might be different.
Right. Maybe they don't start with Google search or a web browser. Maybe they start directly with an AI agent. If that happens, it could bypass the established platforms, shake up the hierarchy. The winners might be whoever owns that initial AI interface for these billions of new users.
That's a huge potential disruption.
Yeah.
Let's talk about work, AI, and cognitive automation.
This is fundamental. The sources show how fast AI's cognitive abilities are improving. Like, going from high school level reasoning to near college graduate level in just 3 years since ChatGPT launched.
And businesses are noticing. We talked about Duolingo's AI-first strategy. The data shows broader adoption too.
Yeah, around 7% of U.S. firms using AI in early 2025, but that was up 21% just from the previous quarter. And we're seeing early evidence of productivity gains, that study's showing a 14% boost for customer support agents using AI tools.
And the job market itself is shifting.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
U.S. job postings mentioning AI are up almost 450% over 7 years. At the same time, non-AI IT jobs are actually down 9%.
But that Jensen Huang quote offers a different perspective. It's not AI taking your job, but someone using AI.
Exactly. He reframes it. He also points to global labor shortages, suggesting AI isn't just about replacing jobs, but maybe about augmenting workers, filling gaps. He talks about potentially putting 40 million workers back into the workforce globally by making powerful tools easier to use, boosting GDP.
That's a powerful counter-narrative. What about future frontiers? Where else is AI going?
The list is long. Medical discovery, more advanced robotics, cybersecurity, education, finance, everywhere. Protein sequencing models growing 290% a year. AlphaFold enabling this thousandfold increase in predicted protein structures compared to what we could do experimentally.
And it's becoming multimodal, handling images, audio, video, not just text.
Yes, a huge trend. Multimodal models increased over 1,150% in 2 years. This lets AI understand much richer context, opening up totally new possibilities. And the ultimate frontier mentioned is, of course, artificial general intelligence, AGI. AI that can do basically any intellectual task a human can.
All right, so let's try to wrap this up. The big takeaway from this deep dive into the sources, what stands out most?
I think it's the sheer, truly unprecedented scale and speed. The adoption, the infrastructure build-out, the capital flowing in, it's unlike anything documented before. Plus, the intensity of the competition open source versus closed, the geopolitical race with China, and the very real impact AI is already having on work and starting to have on the physical world.
Yeah, it's clear this isn't some abstract tech trend happening over there. It's actively reshaping the tools you use, the industries you might work in or interact with, how you get information, maybe even how you navigate the physical world soon.
Absolutely. It's becoming foundational.
And the final provocative thought the sources leave us with, especially channeling Jensen Huang, it's this idea that AI could become a great equalizer in terms of productivity.
Right. His vision. 100% of you know how to program in AIs because the AI will just understand natural language. In a world needing more workers and productivity, AI isn't just for coders. It could unlock potential for millions by lowering the barrier to using incredibly powerful tools.
So maybe the key skill isn't building AI, but mastering how to use it effectively.
That seems to be the implication. It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What problems could you solve? What new things could you create when AI becomes as accessible and fundamental as, say, electricity?
A really powerful question to end on. Thank you for providing all these sources for this deep dive. It's given us an incredibly clear and frankly quite staggering view of the AI era taking shape around us right now.